Welcome to Brewing the Facts, a show where I delve into some interesting beer facts throughout history, from medieval brewing to when soccer teams sponsored their own team beers. Today I continue my Zaitan 7 homebrew, my raspberry jalapeno wheat ale that I've already shown you the seeping and sparging and boiling process in the last couple episodes. I will be showing you the primary vessel, adding the yeast, and adding the jalapenos and raspberry puree in the secondary vessel. Pretty much everything besides bottling in this episode. I also decided to bring back some nostalgia of when I was in college. And I'm going to be talking about the history of beer pong, a game that I always seem to play better after a few beers.
Anyone who has gone to college or just visited for a party knows all about beer pong. The long waiting lists, the pairing up with a partner, the different house rules, owning the table, pulling hair out of your cup and hoping it was yours. The drinking game that still is present on several college campuses to this day and is one that many of us have played in our lives. It is actually considered the top drinking game at college campuses still. While the exact history is not necessarily known, there are a few things we know about this game. One, it is thought to have originated from Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Ping pong was a popular game at the time, and some people believe the game started when beer cups were left on the table, and people started aiming at the cups while using paddles. This original version of the game is one that is still used at some colleges, and has also been portrayed in movies like Beer Fest or in Beer Olympics type tournaments. Dartmouth College is one of the colleges that obviously still holds on to the roots of this early version of the game. Beer is put into plastic cups and put into formations on the table, and players on opposing teams try to hit the ball with a paddle and either hit the cup or sink the shot. Teams essentially have to serve the ball and play a regular ping pong game while trying to hit cups or put the ball in. It is a continuous game until a cup is hit or sunk, and then the scoring team gets to start the serve again. The team whose cup was hit or sunk must drink that cup. A lot of skill is involved, as only experienced table tennis players will be able to score consistently, and there are fewer upsets. Because cups could be knocked down or broken if using glass mugs, lob shots are predominantly used, and that is a type of shot that is actually tougher to learn than just hitting the ball as hard as you can. No one wants to drink broken glass. The original Dartmouth game also had a steeper penalty for those lesser teams. Each cup is filled to the brim, meaning a team that gets beat badly is chugging several beers as a penalty, probably not helping with their already struggling aim. The formations aren't a pyramid like many of us know. Instead, there were variations. A shrub had a 6-cup pyramid with 1 cup in the back middle. A tree had a 10-cup pyramid with 2 additional cups in the middle back row. There was also the battleship formation with cups placed on the table, much like the ships in the Mattel Battleship game might be placed, with 2-cup formations all the way to 5-cup formations, some horizontal, some vertical, and I am sure many people get creative and inventive with their own formations. This is much different from the beer pong most of us know, where we throw balls and cups in a 10-cup pyramid formation.
Of course, the sanitation of cups was awful by the night's end, and each cup was probably a petri dish of viruses. Sanitation, of course, is very important in brewing. I sanitize everything I use, including the kettle, and this primary 6-gallon glass carboy is no exception. I filled this guy halfway with some cool water, and now I'm adding my wort after I cooled it down in the wort chiller, and then I'll be pitching my yeast a little later. Of course, this is an evolved practice, as I used to filter my beer with a grain bag and a lot of patience. But now I have these nifty tools to make it a lot easier. I also used to cool my beer in a bathtub with ice, but I have my wort chiller now. Now, just like the evolution of homebrewing, beer pong also evolved throughout the years.
The version that is most popular today in the United States is one that is credited to a fraternity at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, where the ping pong balls are thrown or bounced into cups, although there are some at Bucknell University, which is also in Pennsylvania, who claim ownership of this version. I'm guessing that is a crazy rivalry during college party season. There was a line in the middle of the table that you had to pass in the beginning of the version, which is said to have have been started in the 1980s. They called it Beirut because of a Beirut bombing in 1983 of a U.S. Marine base. The college kids decided that the way the ping pong balls landed could be a reference to a U.S. retaliation in Beirut. Leave it to drunk privileged college kids to act like they understand foreign policy, though I am not sure the government understood much at that time either. Nowadays, some colleges still call the game Beirut, but with that incident so far in the past, beer pong is more widely used. Because the game evolved from the paddle version, a table tennis table is one of the earlier setups. Now you can pretty much use any long table that is about 10 feet long, some 8 feet. One of the biggest differences from the paddle version, though, is that the amount of beer being drunk for a losing team is a beer per player. Cups are only filled a little bit, about a third of the cup or less, most likely to allow for the ping pong ball to not bounce out of the liquid. This also means that winning teams can dominate a table longer because they are not getting as drunk. Though there is a rumor that drinking a little bit actually makes your aim better, but I'm guessing it's more about the practice.
I'm using the British Ale 5 yeast from Omega Yeast Labs for this beer. It's normally used in like a hazy IPA situation, a fruity type IPA situation, but I'm actually using this because I think it will complement the fruitiness of the raspberry and will balance with the spiciness of the jalapeno. And of course this has to sit and krausen up for a few days, but of course the yeast plays with that sugar like a good team, creating that alcohol and CO2. Of course, when it came to beer pong, a team could also complement each other. I was good at hitting the same cup, and I was good at trick bouncing as well, but where did those rules come from?
Beer pong rules have changed since it began. In the throwing version, the ball was lobbed up to hit the cups to emulate a bomb, but now you can bounce a ball into a cup and get awarded a bonus cup. You can also hit the same cup as your partner and get awarded 2 bonus cups. Some tables award anywhere from 3 re-racks to 2 re-racks, depending on house rules. For example, with 6 cups remaining, you can make a 3-row pyramid. These rules don't necessarily have an origin, however, as most were probably just made up throughout the years and passed down to younger generations. The explanation is that some people decided to tweak rules for competitive advantages or just because of the region they live in. I remember playing 10 different versions in the same town, so to be honest, I'm guessing a house played it a certain way and kept those rules for a home field advantage, so to speak.
It's been 24 hours, and as you can see, the krausen is going pretty strong. The krausen is that foam that's happening at the top. That means that the yeasts are eating these sugars and are reproducing and creating both CO2 and alcohol, beginning that process of fermentation. And this is only, it actually started a little less than 24 hours, but it's been 24 hours now, and it's pretty healthy, as you can see. But one thing that happens sometimes when you make a strong beer is this foam overflows and blasts out of the fermentation lock. You don't want that, so you have to use a blow-off tube so that the excess foam and CO2 actually go off into another bucket that's sanitized with some water. Of course, this beer will only be 4.5% to 5%, so I shouldn't have that problem.
In terms of blowing, though, I've been a part of many controversial games with defensive house rules, such as blowing the ball out of the cup before it settles into the beer. I wasn't too pleased with that rule, but you gotta follow those house rules, right? But what about sanctioned beer pong tournaments? Did you know that there is something called the World Series of Beer Pong that has over 1,000 participants every single year?
The World Series of Beer Pong, also known as WSOBP, was a tournament first held in Mesquite, Nevada from January 2nd to January 6, 2006. 80 teams competed for a $10,000 grand prize. I know, insane. The next year at the same venue, the Oasis Hotel and Casino, the teams increased to 246 and the grand prize was now $20,000. The tournament was moved to Las Vegas in 2008 and has been there ever since. In 2011, 507 teams were entered from the US, Canada, and 9 other countries. The prize money that year was $65,000. Imagine winning that much money in a game you used to play in a dark, moldy basement. Besides the main event, there were other side games like men's and women's singles, co-ed, international, East versus West, and random draw. In 2012, a total of 15 countries, including the United States, competed in the tournament. Besides the main WSOBP, there are also satellite tournaments around the United States and Canada that are used as qualifiers. Teams can also purchase spots in the main tournament if they wish. The rules are also set up to make things equal and fair according to their website. 16-ounce cups are used and 40mm 3-star Pong balls are used as well. The tables are 8 feet long. The formation is a tight 10-cup pyramid, and water is used in all cups as beer drinking is not actually encouraged in the tournament to discourage binge drinking and possible injuries. The team with the first possession just gets 1 shot, and then every team gets 2 shots for each subsequent possession. Determining first possession could be rock, paper, scissors, or a coin flip, or anything else agreed upon by the teams. There's also a 45-second time limit for shots in the WSOBP. That is a nice addition because some people would take about 3 days to throw a pong ball in some games that I've played in, or so it seemed when they had to take a bathroom break. The 2020 tournament was supposed to happen in June 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic postponed it. No new dates have been announced yet, but it is expected to happen at some point, so perhaps those aspiring to win championships will adopt their rules and try to prepare for a potential run in the future.
I am now adding my beer from the primary to the secondary filter, where the jalapeños and the raspberry puree flavors will add to the beer. It'll be a nice sweet and spicy beer. Probably not so spicy, but there'll definitely be a little bit of that jalapeno taste. And just like many beers have different variations, beer pong has different variations. Let's check out some of those.
There have been several variations of beer pong throughout the years, though none are even close to as popular as the throwing or even paddle versions. One is Hungry Hungry Hippos, where cups are placed in a similar formation as the game, and players try to get as many balls in the cups as possible. Harry Potter fans have invented Quidditch beer pong, where the game is similar to the throw version, but 3 ring towers are put in the middle of the table, and the ball must travel through the rings to count. There are also fantasy rules added to simulate magic. Baseball is another version of beer pong, where cups are placed on a table to represent a single, double, triple, or home run, and other cups represent bases. The game has a crazy amount of rules, though. One consists of a team catcher who tries to prevent stolen bases. The catcher must win a game of flip cup against a player on base to try and catch them stealing. There are also cups added to the table to represent catches from the fielding team. A missed shot or a ball in the fielding cups is an out. 3 outs ends the half of the inning. This game is very complicated and is probably only played by very bored kids who miss the party. Then there is Civil War, which is a 3v3 game similar to beer pong. Each player has a 6-cup pyramid formation in front of them, and there are no turns. Instead, you can throw or bounce a ball at any time and try to eliminate players on the other side. And even when you are eliminated, you can still rebound a shot to keep your side with a possession. So strategy is very important in this version of the game. Of course, whatever version you play, you should definitely drink responsibly. The games can be fun, but being a drunk idiot will not make you many friends.
I am now just counting the days until I bottle this delicious beer. But one thing that I do as I change the beer from the primary to secondary and before bottling is I taste the beer to see how the flavor profile is doing. So let's check out this one. Oh, it's definitely already malty. I can taste the grains. The wheat sweetness is in there. I think it'll mesh very well with the raspberry and jalapeno, and I can't wait to taste what those flavors add when I bottle in a couple of weeks, just counting those days down. This has been Brewing the Facts. Join me next week when I actually talk about when soccer teams decided to make their own beers and can them as well. Cheers.